Tom Snyder program was recorded earlier this evening for broadcast at this time here on WABC.
Wednesday, 1:18.89. Tonight, we'll explore the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, which is well beyond that with syndication and the new television series by Paramount, is to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. On tonight's radio show, Gene Roddenberry, who 22 years ago created a television show called Star Trek. At first, the two-part pilot was called Too Cerebral, and then when Star Trek was pulled off the air a few seasons later, hordes of fans demanded its return. It's now a phenomenon, still running in syndication across the country. Gene Roddenberry is executive producer of Star Trek The Next Generation, another Star Trek series updated with new characters. Nationwide, there are more than 400 Star Trek fan clubs. There are Star Trek comic books, bubblegum cards, board games, model kits, dolls, and bumper stickers. And tonight, the man who began it all, Gene Roddenberry, on the radio show for Wednesday night. Now that's a produced opening, all right? That's a theme song, okay? We thought we'd do that today as a little tribute to my pal, Gene Roddenberry. You know, it's funny. Every time Gene is on television or radio, or every time people from Star Trek are on the air, and they're available by phone or by letter, the lines are jammed and the mailboxes are filled. I remember the night we had about 4 or 5 on the Tomorrow Show. I think Scotty was there. We had a bunch of people on. And the mail persisted for weeks on end from people who wanted pictures or they wanted any memorabilia that might have been left behind. You know, they have these conventions of Trekkies, the fans of Star Trek, and they get enormous turnouts, and all manner of stuff is swapped or traded and bought and sold. I mean, original photographs, autographed pictures, letters from cast members, memorabilia, souvenirs, early Star Trek commercial material like T-shirts and lunchboxes and toys and gizmos and whizmos. There's just a tremendous interest in that persists around the world. It is truly a phenomenon, and I'm happy that Gene Roddenberry is here tonight to talk about that. I mean, you'll ask him about that. But did you know that Roddenberry was a cop in Los Angeles? Somebody said, you know, if you want to be a writer for television, it might be a good idea if you joined the police force and saw life from that side, so he did that. And by the time he was a sergeant, he was writing for the Goodyear Theater, the Kaiser Aluminum Hour, 4-Star Theater, Dragnet, the Jane Wyman Theater, and Naked City. So he's had a hell of a life. He was a pilot in World War II, entering combat at Guadalcanal, flying B-17 bombers in the war. He flew when he came back after the war until he saw television, and he said, you know, there's something going on there. And he correctly realized that soon Hollywood would need writers and producers and directors to produce the programs that would fill the new television system. So he's had a hell of a career, and I want to talk to him about all of its facets, and then later on we'll get to Star Trek with all the fans on what should be a very fun night here on the radio show. Back with Gene Roddenberry as we continue for Wednesday after these messages. We are back with television producer and writer and creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, and my friend, it's a pleasure to have you before these microphones. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and I thank you for coming over tonight.
Thank you, Tom. I'm delighted to be
here. I know you're at you and Mage, your dear bride, were at a terrific party in Hollywood tonight, and you tore yourself away, so I'm doubly appreciative.
Thank you.
I hope you didn't bring too much of the party with you.
I may wish I'd brought more.
Now, you were, as I say, and a lot of people probably don't know this, but you were a pilot for us in World War II, right? Flying out of Guadalcanal, B-17 bombers.
Right.
You came home from the war, and you continued flying for a while, military or commercial?
Pan American.
You were a Pan Am pilot?
In those days, Pan American was the overseas airline.
Did you fly the Clippers?
Yes, I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you sit in the left-hand seat?
Never on the left-hand seat in the Clipper. On a 4-engine plane, though, yes.
Okay. Now, when did you first see television? When did you first not only see a tube with a picture on, but realize that there was really something going on here?
In New York, television was a little advanced over Los Angeles, and so there was regular programming there, and I looked at it and I said, well, This is the thing. This is the future. And in California, they'll put it in these motion picture studios, which are standing empty. And so I made a fast trip to Los Angeles, and I found that I was ahead of my time. I went out to a place for television. He said, well, yeah, Captain, we only broadcast 3 hours a day. We'd be glad to have you, but I don't know what you do. So I had to wait till television caught up.
Now, was this an experimental station, or was it an on-the-air station?
No, I believe it was KTLA.
KTLA, the Klaus Landsberg Broadcasting Company.
Indeed.
Yeah, I worked for that station in the 60s. Yeah, it's a great television station.
Yes, it was. It is.
So now, I don't know if you had written at all while you were in the service. Were you a writer since you were a kid? A fascination for it?
Yeah, I've always kind of played. Mostly I was an omnivorous reader. Most writers are readers that read everything and constantly. And if I didn't have anything else to read, I'd read the phone book.
Gotcha. Okay, so you liked the printed word, you liked stories.
Yes.
So, in your biography, you became a cop, but one of your friends advises you to see life from that side. So you joined the police force.
Yes, he was a writer, a professional writer himself, and he said, you don't know much about life in depth. You've seen the world, but what do you know about what people do out on the streets and so on? And he was right. It was, I worked 5 years on the police department. The present chief of police, Gates, was in my academy class. We were rookies together.
But it's interesting that here you had established a career as a commercial airline pilot for Pan American, who'd been flying the world since the world was flown, and you left that behind to come out to Los Angeles and try and break into television and start a whole new career for yourself. How old a man were you at that time?
I was 30-some, 31. I decided I didn't want to be an international bus driver.
Yeah.
Now, those guys that fly those are great, but I needed intellectual stimulation, and you don't get that in the seat of an airplane.
So what did you learn about life on the streets of L.A. as a cop? Were you a beat cop?
Yeah, I was a beat cop. The late Chief Parker read something that I had written, and he said, why don't you come to my office and be chief of research for me?
Okay.
And I said, no, that's not why I'm here. Well, we argued, and we agreed that I would work for 6 months for him, and alternating 6 months, he would have to put me anywhere on the force I wanted to be. So I got a lot of wonderful experience.
Tell me about some of that. What did you do? What happened on the streets of Los Angeles?
One of the jobs I liked most was the old F car. You got in, it's a plainclothes car. You wore plainclothes. You usually didn't shave, and you hung out in places where there was going to be trouble.
And everybody knew you were a cop, even
No, they wouldn't.
Oh, and I can spot a cop to this day in plain clothes. There's something about cops, when they dress in plain clothes, they look like cops.
But some of them didn't.
Okay,
got arrested.
Okay. All right. So you're a plain clothes guy. Where'd you hang out? What kinds of places?
Bars, places where, really not very nice people hung out.
There could be trouble there.
Yeah, where there could be trouble. And we hung out sometimes where there was a hint of a stick-up. And it's, for a young man, that's exciting.
Yep.
I don't know that I like it so well now. And then after that, I worked juvenile squad for a while. Marvelous work to learn about kids and what they do. I worked narcotics for a while. And you really see a piece of life. You learn what businessmen do after hours, and you learn that for what they throw guys, some people in jail for, businessmen do in their own clubs. And your philosophy about life changes.
So you begin to see that there is duplicity in life, and that there are different rules for different people based upon station and economic position.
And then as a writer, these things are so valuable to you, because unless you've seen those things, you don't know. You might have read about it, but it's not the same as seeing it.
So when did you sell your first script to a television anthology series? Like, I mentioned some that you had written for here, Four Star Theater, Kaiser Aluminum, Goodyear Theater, the Jane Wyman Theater, Naked City. When did you make your first hit?
By coincidence, I wrote a script called The Secret Defense of 117. 117 being the nomenclature for Earth. And it was a couple that arrived on Earth, and it was their job to blow this troublesome planet up.
Mm-hmm.
The secret defense, of course, is love. And they discovered love, they discovered affection for people, and so on. And it sucked them in, as it had sucked in a whole series of agents that had preceded them.
Right.
So Earth was safe.
And who was that? Where did that play? Do you remember?
That played on the Chevron Theater. And I'll try to remember the names of the people, but they...
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah.
No, come on. You don't have to remember cast members. My goodness, we're talking...
Marvelous actors, though.